Okay, so welcome everyone to our study abroad podcast series. So today we have Soumya who is studying in Japan and he's from India. We'll be knowing about his journey from India to Japan. So welcome Soumya.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for making me a part of this.
Sure. So Soumya, I see that you have studied in India. Could you tell us a bit about your education in India and what made you decide that you want to go abroad at some point of time?
Right. So I'll make it short, but a little bit longer as well. I come from a middle class family, and as most middle class families are, it's either engineering or doctor or law. So I wanted to become a doctor, didn't happen. The contingency plan was engineering. Even though, I was not interested at the beginning, engineering sort of became really important for me at a certain point of time. Then something interesting happened because I'm from KIIT University, Electronics and Telecom. I started participating in debates, particularly Model United Nations. Many people say extracurricular activities are good. Many people say they're bad. I am a proponent for it, that I'm always going to say that whenever people are in university, they should go for extracurricular activities. Through this, I got very interested in policies, and which is exactly where policy and engineering became the central piece for me. And that is exactly where I wanted to see where I can take both of these together, which is where I ended up with the answer of a master's abroad. But I didn't go right away after engineering, which was something that really helped me. I took my placements. I worked for 3.5 years in Gurgaon. Um, I took the placement. I saw the corporate culture. I saw that whether the job fits me or not. It did, but my interest in masters was still there, which is after which I started applying, and I eventually got into Kyoto University. But the more questions, I'll answer throughout the
Sure,
series of
sure.
podcasts.
So when you are deciding to go abroad, you would have probably a list of
Mhm.
colleges, countries, courses to apply. So how did you pin down to those colleges, countries, and courses?
Right. So this is exactly where that 3.5 years really helped me, right? If somebody is in the fourth year of engineering or in the final year of their undergrad, they have a lot of options and the thought is not really clear. So throughout these 3.5 years when I was working, of course, I was interested in my job, but I was more interested in pursuing something that I really loved. And what I actually loved came into fruition in those 3.5 years, which is where I first jotted down what course I really want to take, which for me was climate change, renewable energy, something like this. After that, I searched this particular course on something called the QS Global ranking system, which is where this particular course, or this particular stream, which universities in the world are the top 10 or the top 20. I came down to Sciences Po Paris, Imperial College London, Monash Malaysia, and of course Kyoto University, their renewable energy program. So after jotting this down, then I started my applications.
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah,
So you
it's
applied to
first
around 10
course,
places.
10 colleges, yeah, six,
Okay,
and
okay. So,
I got through all of them, but this is the one that I selected.
so why did you select the one that you chose?
Two reasons. Number one is the reason, my personal reason, the lowest tuition fees of them all. And number two, which is the on paper reason, which is again personal, their application process. So most universities, they ask for SOPs and the IELTS score, and that's it. Based on that, they accept you or they reject you. Like I got all acceptances, that's a different thing, but you don't really get a feedback. For Kyoto University, in addition to the English language test, in addition to the SOP, they had a face-to-face interview on Zoom. And through the interview, I was like, oh, wow, there is a professor with whom I may be doing my master's degree. And this person is actually interviewing me with two other people. And that thing really sort of like, these two factors came together, and I'm like, this is my place. Yeah.
So out of the other six applications, only one university took your face-to-face interview.
Yes, exactly.
So you basically developed a bit of a human touch, and there was a bit of a emotional trigger also because of that face-to-face interaction.
It is, it is. It's really important to have sort of like this, like you can't really say this is bonding, like as you say, the human touch. It's sort of like a very invisible feedback, which is there, right? It really helps you.
Sure, sure, sure. So it's kind of simulating that MBA GDPI round kind of for the study abroad side.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly, exactly. Right, right. Even though I'm not an MBA person, but like, yeah, yeah, sort of like that.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So did you have to like write any SOP and LOR and other things apart from this personal interview thing?
Oh, of course, yeah. So for each and every college, like the very first thing is LOR is like somebody else is giving you the letter of recommendation, but the statement of purpose is perhaps the most important thing. And I saw like the process of statement of purpose may be very easy. That is what I thought initially. But when I started writing it, it is probably one of the most difficult things, like, to write about yourself and to mold that writing draft after draft as per the course, as per the institute. It's not like many people say the same the same SOP for every college. No, that is something absolutely incorrect. We have to write the SOP as per the college, as per the course, as per the country. So that is perhaps one of the most difficult parts of applying to universities abroad.
Did you also write? Did you also write any test for these applications?
Okay, so like normally for the United States, it's GRE. I was not interested in the United States because, again, financially, it was not feasible for me. Number two, most of these colleges, like my basic focus was Europe and Asia, they required the IELTS, that is the English language test, IELTS or TOEFL. So I had to write IELTS.
Sure, sure, sure. So after doing all this and you getting this admit, etc., you decided to come, right? And so how did you book your initial accommodation and the flight and the visa process?
Right. So Japan's visa for process is fairly simple. Like unlike US, and I think for UK it's also fairly simple. Like when you get accepted to an university, the university prepares the documentation, and then they send you that documentation. You just take it to the embassy. That's it. You don't need to show any funds per se because the university already does that for you. The second thing, which is with regards to the accommodation, I don't know about the other institutes, but Kyoto University provides 1 year of accommodation. As in, of course, you have to pay for it, but it is essentially the university dormitory. So this process took about 4 to 5 months, like, the accommodation, all of this. So when the accommodation is decided, then I just have to book the flight tickets, which is what I did.
So how did you choose the airlines? What trajectory did you take for the very first flight?
Okay. So before coming to Japan, I like I said, I did MEUNs, model events, through which I went to different institutes and conferences in Europe, Kazakhstan. I went to Ethiopia as well. So I sort of knew a little bit about flights, but I had to leave my job in Gurgaon, and my hometown is Calcutta. So of course I had to leave from Calcutta. basically something that gives me about 40 kgs of check-in baggage, and something that is not too extreme on the pocket. Quite nice. Like, there's a direct flight from Calcutta. Um, there's a short layover in Bangkok, um, and then that's it. Like, it directly brings me to Kansai International Airport, Osaka, which is in the vicinity of Kyoto. Yeah.
Okay, okay, sure, sure. So this was the first time you traveled alone, or you previously also you traveled alone for your MUNs?
Yes, like each and every time that I've been international, like I went internationally, I traveled alone. The very first time was very difficult because that was Germany. But yeah, so like, this sort of traveling alone may sound very scary for people, experience, and that first initial jump is very important, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure. And once you came to Japan and you came to your accommodation, how was the food and cleaning management for you? You had to do things by yourself, or it was all provided? Half half? How was it?
Okay, so it's in foreign countries, mostly you have to do everything by yourself. So it sounds like an university dormitory, but it's nothing like a hostel. It's just like an apartment. You have your own kitchen, you have your own bathroom and everything. You cook your own food and everything. Fortunately for me, cooking was my hobby, is my hobby. So I always cooked when I was working in Gurgaon as well. So that helped me to, like, adjust into my own quite quite comfortably. With regards to cleaning, in India we have to clean every day, right? That's why most of us have maids at homes. Here the dust is so low, cleaning once a week is enough. So it's just like, a Saturday or a Sunday that you take the vacuum cleaner, the broom, the mop, and you just clean. That's it.
Sure, sure, sure. And your first few classes that you did for your masters, you would have seen some differences in the way people are taught in India
Hmm.
versus Japan or to. So, what are the educational, I mean, the difference in the education system of India versus Japan, what you experienced personally?
Hmm. So this is a very important point. In India, it's mostly like, a selected coursework. A book is there, and they will go through random chapters. Not random chapters. They would go through chapters one by one in a particular thing. In the master courses for me, there was no prescribed book. Like, there is some reference material or something. So every class is an event. It's sort of like a lecture. Only one class per week per course, and the classes are conducted in sort of like a seminar manner, which is where the professor has a certain material. It's a 1.5 hour class. 1 hour is completely a lecture by the professor. And in the next half an hour, which is the last half an hour of the class, it is like a group discussion, sort of like a thing. And at the end of the course, certain courses for me had exams. They were fairly simple. Like, if you attend the classes, that is there. The fact is, 80% of the courses didn't have exams. What they had was, based on the material that was taught to us, like, over the period of 4 or 5 months in a semester, we were asked to give, number one, either an open book exam, or number two, a completely research report from us, which is not existent on the internet. Like, if you copy paste, you're failing the class, basically. So you are researching on something that has already been taught. You're adding your own understanding, and you're basically sort of writing a research paper, 5 to 6,000 words. And then that is what you are graded upon. So this was very different. What I found was, an exam makes you memorize stuff. But through this actually, like, enabled me to understand what was happening when ultimately, the target of my master's degree was the research thesis at the end of the master's degree. So all of this boiled down to the thesis, and I also managed to publish a paper, a research paper, in a very good journal in my master's degree itself. And this is something which was completely new to me, and it blew me away, the system.
Correct, correct, correct. And once you started doing all your research and other things, how did you choose your research topic finally in your master's, or you had to only do courses? And how was the division like for you?
So that's a very good question. My master's degree was actually more focused on research. So I had 45 credits, only 14 credits, that is 7 courses, 2 credits per courses, what the course were, and 31 credits was completely for my research. So research was almost 2/3 of the master's. And what you asked me is the most difficult part of a researcher's life, or the beginning, selecting the topic. In many certain like labs, and this depends on the lab itself, be it US, be it UK, be it Japan. Sometimes the professor gives you the topic. That's quite easy. But my professor was like, you have to select your own topic. And like, what's a problem? To come up with that first you have to ask the question that what is the problem. That took me 1 year. Every day I'm like, grinding myself, because what we initially think is a problem is not really a scientific problem to solve. So from there, what you like to come to the actual question, that's the journey that each and everybody has to take, whoever wants to be a researcher. It's almost hell, but it's very rewarding at the end of that, the moment. And because my professor helped me to understand what is the question, I eventually managed to then design the research in such a way that even before my master's degree ended over the period of 2 years, I could actually publish one research paper out of that particular question. And this is eventually what really motivated me to come to PhD.
So Soumya,
Sure.
next question that I wanted to ask you is that you did research this, that. So you would have got some scholarship as a RATA also, or something like that. What was the scholarship like that you received?
Right. Thank you for this question. And this is which is where the most important point, it comes back to the first question itself, why I selected Japan, right? So even though I got through each and every institute, I was rejected for at least 7 scholarships throughout this time. It is not all acceptances for me. I got through every institute, I got rejected for every application. Which is where Japan was the most logical option for me, because the tuition fees at all national universities of Japan is 250,000 yen per semester, which translates to roughly about 150,000 rupees per semester. So per year, the tuition fees is just 3 lakh rupees, which is much cheaper than most MBA colleges in India. This is the first reason. The second reason is that I boarded the Thai Airways flight with no scholarship, with nothing, that my parents probably would support me and whatever little savings I had from 3.5 years. What happened eventually is that I got to learn that after you come to Japan, there is a plethora of scholarships which are available for you to apply. It's difficult to get those scholarships, but you really have to stick it out there. So I applied for a scholarship during my master's after coming to Japan, and that was a scholarship by Panasonic called KMMF, Konosuke Matsushita Memorial Foundation Scholarship. No additional work is supposed to be done, no TA, no RA. You just do your particular research and your master's degree. So I got the scholarship. What it provided was, it provided me complete zero tuition. They would pay my tuition, the foundation, and I got a salary of 90,000 rupees per month, which basically meant that throughout my master's degree, the burden on my parents was zero. In fact, because I was in a university dormitory, I was able to send some money back home. So it was essentially one of the best situations that could actually ever happen over there.
Sure, sure. So this scholarship that you got was after like one semester, 1 year, or it was like first few months? How long did it take to get this?
10 days.
Yeah, 10 days.
10 days, literally. I came here, and the first thing I did was my university told me on the first day there's this scholarship. So in Japan, you can't apply for the scholarships on your own. In Japan, you have to first get selected into universities, and then. By the way, I will tell you at the end of it, there's another scholarship, but that's a different thing that I'll tell at the end. So most scholarships are through universities. So after I got admitted, and I was really scared that, like, how am I going to manage like this much funds? I applied on the first day. 10 days later, I got selected, and I was like, okay, my God, one of the best days.
So you started getting all the money from the very first month, pretty much. So there was no
The
burden on
very
your
first month,
parents completely.
literally, yeah, that just the initial flight ticket and the initial amount of money. Like I remember how much I actually got. I got 1.5 lakhs. That's it, converted to Japanese currency for the first month, and then the loan process and everything. I was thinking we'll probably get that done. None of that was required ever again.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So, and then when you are sending back the money to your parents and all, I mean, everything pretty much nullified, right? So you are in the positive
Right,
profit actually, like
right,
a job.
right. Right. Actually, like, and you don't have to do the TA, you don't have to do the RA. So it's just like, you're getting paid to just study. That's it. That's probably like, Japan is one of the very few countries which has this system. And by the way, the other scholarship that I did not know about because I decided pretty late for applying, that many people who would hear this podcast, if they want to come to Japan, this is called the MEXT scholarship. This is like, people have to apply through the embassies for these particular scholarships, embassies and the Japanese consulates. Chennai is there, Bombay is there, Calcutta is there, Delhi is there. So basically what this is that you have to apply a year to year and a half before your stipulated time for, like, getting into the universities. And once you get the scholarship, this scholarship actually gives you close to 1 lakh rupees per month. Same situation and everything, where the selection of the university happens after the scholarship. So this scholarship is a very long process through the institutes, but you are essentially funded by the Japanese government, their
Sure, sure.
Ministry of Education.
So it's one is like an upfront scholarship, and one is after you get selected, kind of. So it's like
Right,
first you get scholarship, then
right,
you apply, then other is first you apply, then you apply for scholarship. So either way, if you
right.
get the scholarship, the eventually, I mean, you make end up making money only. But yeah, obviously the tension graph can change in both scenarios.
It is. It's a make or break decision, right, for many people. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think the Japanese government and Japanese colleges, universities are doing all this also to attract the talent towards their side, right? Nobody wants to
Right,
leave the
right.
talented people just like that. So yeah, it's good to at least have at least the intelligent people, let's say, who may not be that financially strong, also have an
Right.
opportunity to at least do masters from these countries where they can be as good as like an employee kind of, or at least a break-even student with a full scholarship.
Right.
Sure, sure.
Definitely.
So I see that after masters you did your PhD also. So and you explained that because you did a research based master's, so that motivated you to do PhD. So coming to your PhD life slightly, we have seen that a lot of PhD people when they do this research and all, and it's a bit like entrepreneurship. There's a lot of fluctuations, emotional
Mhm.
fluctuations, I think, which you also faced during your master's time, finding the problem, right? So you would
Mhm.
have faced that a bit more while doing PhD. And did you sometimes had a emotional like trauma or trouble at times that okay, I want to maybe quit, masters was enough, and things like that? Did you also face something like this in your life?
Thank you for the question, and it's a very important question. So, my research, the question lies on the parts of research motivation, right? I have seen at least 10 students in front of me, different labs and my lab included, who have dropped out of PhD. So if everything goes good in the PhD life, it is fantastic. Like, life is blissful. And if things don't go according to your plan, it can literally lead to depression. And people in many different, not here, I haven't heard, but in many different institutes, people have claimed their lives as well because of this problem. So, one thing over here that I particularly did not face that traumatic atmosphere because of my supervisor. He was a very, very kind person. Um, I faced that in my master's actually, like, the first 1 year to come to that research question. The fact is, when the research question was designed already, so my transition from my master's to PhD was not literally like, I can't even draw a line in there. Like, it was basically one through thing. So the research path was already established. Now, for people who want to go into PhD, I feel it's good if they want to do bachelor's, master's, PhD one after the other. Yes. But I also feel that it's important to work in a company or at least do something else before they want to dive into the research life. Because number one, it gives that emotional maturity a little bit as well. Like, because they are a little older as well. Second thing, before doing a PhD, because PhD is not like any other degree. PhD won't get you a good IT job. A master's will get you a good IT job or something. PhD is there for a very specific purpose that if somebody wants to become a researcher, most PhD, even my cousins, most PhD students, after the end of their PhD, they say, perhaps I would have been better not doing it. So the most important thing for somebody to do PhD is that they have to figure out the answer. Why do I want to do the PhD? Once they've figured it out, the second thing is, what problem do I want to solve? So even before coming to the PhD course or a PhD situation, they should understand that this is my research interest, that this is something that is actually meaningful to me, and then I want to go ahead and solve some issue over there. So without these two, many people do end up being in that traumatic situation because they don't understand how to do it. Because to get a PhD, you need to publish papers, and that is perhaps the most important thing to these two questions. Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure. So coming to the very last question, Soumya, what advice would you give to younger yourself, so the aspirants or people like you 10 years ago, 5 years ago, who are planning to maybe go abroad? Any specific advice you would like to give?
So if it's not a financially destroying situation for yourself or your family, and it is risky but won't destroy anybody, that leap of faith is very important to be taken. That even if you are in a bachelor's degree or even if you're working the job, uh, to go abroad, you need a little bit of guts. You need to do it, basically. Procrastination or mental blocks will always come in, but that leap of faith is perhaps the most important. To my younger self, I would say you could have taken it 1 year earlier, but that you took it is perhaps one of the biggest things that you've done for yourself. So don't be afraid to take that leap of faith if there is some possibility financially for you to be able to do it outside of India or
Sure,
something.
sure. And like you said, people quit also. So it's not that quitting is not an option later. Like, there's always this leap of faith and then they take. And let's say if they
Mhm.
are thinking that, okay, especially for PhD, right, they can't do it. So they can always have this kind of quitting thing and all. I mean, it's like, there is always this
Yeah,
backup. It's not like end of the world completely, right?
Exactly. Because the fact is, you're anyways going to get a stipend. Like, a PhD without a stipend or a PhD without a scholarship is not worth doing. It's as simple as that. Like, if somebody is doing a PhD and not getting any money for it, they should not do it. Number one. Number two, yeah, quitting is absolutely fine. If somebody is going to the US, if they quit after 2 years, they quit with a master's degree. That's it. So I think it's the same thing for certain institutes in Europe as well. So yeah, they can. Many people quit and they're in quite good jobs over here in Japan as well. Many of my friends. So be ready to. There also it's a leap of faith actually to quit.
Yeah, yeah. Sure. So coming to the recommendation part also again, any recommendation for usage of LinkedIn for the youngsters? A lot of people may not use it to the fullest potential. What's your take on usage of LinkedIn?
Yeah, well, I myself am a little procrastinating on LinkedIn, updating. But LinkedIn is perhaps one of the best digital resumes out there for somebody. So the moment people start updating their own stuff, they also get connection requests from different people. And perhaps these connection requests not only lead to job offers, but many people who are very high up in academic or industrial spheres, they keep on posting jobs from not only their own company, but also from their connections, other places as well. And it can perhaps lead to a social atmosphere, like a social network atmosphere, which eventually leads you to a fantastic job. And secondly, LinkedIn should be updated at least with the major life achievements. That's it. Minor achievements, I see many people posting a lot of minor achievements. That's good, but there should also be a limit for it. Like, somebody randomly completing a certain target for a company for 1 month, posting that many also shows a little bit of a negative impression as well. So posts should be regular, but it should also be like, well judged, that like,
Meaningful.
not every minor thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be
Okay, okay.
meaningful. That's it.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I also agree that meaningful post, some value addition to, let's say, the community or
Mhm.
people, kind of, that is
Right.
always more helpful than just bragging about it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not a bragging rights, right? It's of course to show yourself, but also if there is something very interesting, like, you're just going to share some news or share some insights that's going to help businesses, environment, something, go ahead, do it. That's the best platform for it.
sure. Thank you, Soumya, for your time and sharing your experiences of your master's and PhD journey. And we hope our audience like it, and some of them might connect with you also on LinkedIn. So thank you.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
good day.
much. Yeah, thank you so much for like, having me over here. And like, I definitely hope that many people do come abroad, but also at the same point of time, many people do take these lessons from abroad to India, and not just like, even if they're working outside of India, that doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, helping our own country should perhaps be a little bit like, at least 10% interest should be there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then take care. Bye.
Thank you so much.